see how we can harness its power, because it's key to unlocking many hidden insights that are going to drive innovation and growth we are looking for in our countries, in Africa, in Uganda, in Kenya, wherever it is we have our participants coming from. So this webinar has been designed to provide all of us with an overview of the world of big data analytics and artificial intelligence. And we want to be able to explore cutting edge technologies, what are the best practices and real world applications. And as you can see, in the 21st century, AI has become a reality in the workplace. Whether we want to embrace it or not, it's not going anywhere, it's here to stay. And we want to be able to sensitize you as an organizational leader in whichever capacity you serve, whether you're an employee or a business owner, on how you can take advantage of these opportunities that technology is bringing to us. Here we have an award-winning data scientist who also happens to be a purpose coach, Coach Gabriel, who's ready to share his knowledge and insights with all of us. So whether you're a data scientist, a seasoned one as well, if you're a business leader, a business owner who's looking to leverage on your data-driven strategies, or you're just simply curious about the potential that big data analytics and artificial intelligence could bring or present to your business, well, this webinar is the right place for you, and it has something for everyone who has attended today. So let's sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired and informed. Let's embark on this journey together and explore the endless possibilities that big data analytics and artificial intelligence has to offer. I would like to acknowledge and appreciate our esteemed sponsors for this free webinar. There are several others that are going to be held throughout this year. Our main sponsor is Badili Consults, which is a HR and management consultancy and coaching firm based here in Uganda, Kampala. And we are your people and culture partner for success. And our other partners are coming from Kenya. We have Inquest, we have MyVarsity, which is an e-learning platform, and we have TalentVerse. And I believe Coach Gabriel will be able to give us a bit of more information on those points. So allow me to also request us that we keep our calls on mute. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour, and we have dedicated some 20 to 30 minutes at the end for us to be able to receive your questions, and we can get answers from Coach and his diligent team. So thank you so much and feel welcome. Allow me to introduce to you Coach Gabriel. Most welcome, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth, for such a very inspiring introduction. We really appreciate. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where the viewers are listening us from or watching this webinar from. So my name is Gabriel Nyamu, and I'm so delighted to always get an opportunity to share experiences and things that could help us in life as we position as seasoned and impactful marketplace leaders. And I think this webinar is one of the nuggets that I think will help us as we learn from each other in terms of what is happening globally. And I know, as Ruth have said, big data and analytics and also the AI has become part of our life. I think it's all around us, and therefore we cannot just shy away and wish it out. I think it's here to stay. We just need to see how do we leverage it for impact and to facilitate, or what we call enabling human potential. So it's not a threat, as people maybe will look at it. I always say that AI and even the other technologies, they should enable human potential. They should make the human do more and also be able to have more impact. And that's what makes us human beings. Good, so I'm going to maybe do a quick discourse overview for approximately around 1 hour or even less, so that we can have a Q&A session. These are starter version, and therefore we plan to maybe do some other subsequent sensitization, which might take a bit more targeted approach. But for today, it's more of a high-level overview, just to help us be sensitized. We can get more technical or a bit more in-depth, maybe in subsequent engagement, based on the feedback from audience. So share some slides. I'll be pausing in some times just to ask you to engage me and also just give us some feedback from the chat. And I hope at least this process will be a co-created process where all of us learn from each other. So give me a second, I'll put in my slide. Let me see quickly. Just confirm that you can see my screen. Let me pick randomly. Joe, you can see my screen. Good to see you, Joe.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, good. Awesome, great. Fine. So let's engage. So the topic today is more this big data and AI. I know there's always an interface between the two. Some people are not able to differentiate between the AI and of course the big data. I'm going to attempt to try to give the context of the two. But I think the biggest discourse to interject today is on the big data itself. Because AI, it's a journey. It's a journey from the big data to get into the AI space. So one of the things that we have found, and I think I started getting interested in this space almost 2 decades now, when I started my career almost 19 years ago. And I happen to have worked in financial services, but I'm always passionate about data all through. And out of curiosity, I started kind of trying to search for various engagement that I could be able to learn more about how can you make use of data? Why would you even capture data? And I think in the banking, one of the things that used to piss me off is that sometimes we'll collect a lot of data, but we'll not use it. So you have a lot of data that you collect on a daily basis, whether it's customer data when you're opening a bank account, people throughout the journey. And one of the things I remember an incident that happened is where an SME, just a small medium enterprise that was back in one of the bank, had opened a bank account, that's purely a business account, and then transacted and kept on growing. You know, you start with a startup, then you become a medium enterprise, and at a point, the company was so big. And now at that point, I know the founder. The founder wanted to come to the bank and seek for approximately around 30 million shillings. Remember, he started as a startup. So he kept on, of course, doing transactions. He could see the bank in terms of the bank account, in his dealings. 3, 4, 5 years down the line, the guy has built a business, is quite well spread, and he needed some trade finance just to finance his working capital to be able to ship something I think was buying abroad. So he went to the bank and approached them to ask for 30 million. Now, guess what? These guys have been transacting, but the bank wasn't even so sensitive about knowing whether this customer is literally progressing in terms of their scale of business. So when they were trying to appraise him, they were appraising in the original context of how he opened. You know, when you go and you've just registered a company, had 6 months, you have very bare minimum transactions that happens there. The guy is actually also doing some transaction outside the bank, but he was denying the 30 million. And he had to go and start to look for that funding from other places, a bit more informal kind of financing than the conventional bank. Personally, I knew this guy. So I knew 30 million was not something that he could struggle paying. Maybe 1 transaction, 2 transactions is done. He can repay that loan in less than even 4 months. But I could see the bank declining to approve the loan. And I'm like, what is the problem here? It's a data disconnect. So the bank is not leveraging on big data to be able to understand the customer much better, even outside the core banking system. Because all of us, I know we have different organizations that we implement what you call systems, core systems, operating system. We have ERPs and all that. But sometimes we zero in only in our proprietary or our enterprise system architecture to only rely with it for decision making. And the people that we are dealing with have so much data out there, whether it's from their social media, from their website, from the Internet of Things, from their transactions, from their behavior, and any other interaction. But if at all we only rely on just our own internal systems, you discover that we then are ignorant about the people that we are serving, whether it's customer or whether they are our employees or even our partners and probably even service providers. And that gives you a bit of a brightness of how organizations are bright about their people. And the big data is one of the things that has come to be able to salvage this, because then you go beyond just your own proprietary systems or your own enterprise system to see how can I be able to understand customers, understand my employees beyond just our own internal system. And that I just wanted to share that story just to give us a perspective on the huge gap that organizations are having. We literally are not using data to drive decision making. That's why this is very critical. And I hope at least it can be able to open our eyes for those who are in various business in terms of leadership, for those who are employed and anybody. Still, this is something that you need to take home. So thank you, Badili, for partnering with us, and also the other Bloods, Papa's Verse, my Varsity, and also Tarrant for hosting this and partnering with us in this webinar. So I think my brief is quite very brief. I'm a purpose coach. That's purely my core. But technically, I'm a strategy and transformation consultant with a background in data science. But I've also, of course, gotten interested in transformation, and I do a lot of strategy work to help organizations align their strategy. And even in that process, we always use data to be able to align organizational positioning. Besides that, I've also practiced some HR work, which I served for like 13 years as a HR business partner in various industries. So my purpose is very simple, just to help people transform their mindset for redemptive purpose and generational impact. To summarize it all, the other technical things are just enablers for me to do this in a different way. So we're going to talk about global trends, big data analytics, BI, things to do something we call value-based reporting. And then I can have a bit of a simple, maybe session that I'll be able to engage you for call for action. Let's talk about global trends, which I think we probably have had it as much as we may not have understood what is happening, but I'm sure we've been hearing about the things that are happening. However, let me approach this from different angle. There's this guy who I know we know probably in social media or the internet called Edwards Deming, that says, in God we trust and all others must bring data. And it's just a light note in terms of how he positioned this. He's trying to prove that where the world is right now, yes, we can trust you and you trust God, but for us to trust you, also make us trust you by providing evidence. I think that's what he's trying to say in many words. Provide evidence for whatever you're doing or whatever you're putting. Whether it's a decision you're making, show us the data, show us the evidence. And I think it's not very far from the truth. Yes, I know it may not be 100%, empirically truthful, because there are sometimes where you go outside the data because the data is faulty, then you have to make the decision outside the data. So I know that. But let's look at the things that are happening globally. We are shifting, the world is shifting drastically. We are moving from profit to purpose. Our nations have discovered we need to anchor ourselves on purpose. We are moving from planning to what we call agile experimentations. You've heard this buzzword about agile. Now you can be agile without tracking data, because for you to make iterative decisions or implementation that is very iterative, you need to rely on data constantly. We also kind of getting rid of, what we call controlling to empowering. We've discovered that human beings don't love being controlled. And in fact, you cannot control human beings. The best you can do is to empower them. When you empower them, you unleash their potential in them. And then information and data is actually part of the enablement. If you give people information and what they need, they get empowered. Privacy to transparency, we are disclosing so much things that we were not disclosing before. Currently, we are seeing even CEOs disclosing their salaries. Initially, salary used to be something that is under lock and key, and nobody used to even to know how much people want. Currently, we are being pushed to expose the data. It's because of the push for transparency. You're, of course, also moving from what we call hierarchy to network systems, and then, of course, product centricity to customer centricity. You discover you need to make sure our products are customer-centric. By say customer-centric means that we are addressing a specific need in people's life. Business does not just operate as a business because of products and services. We are providing solutions. Now, for those solutions to be relevant to the customer, we need to have understood the customer. For you to have understood the customer, you have to have gotten information and data about the customer so that you can also be able to understand their behavior, predict their patterns, and be able to position a solution that is fit for purpose. So you can see how that correlation is. At the end of the day, To be customer-centric means you need to have understood the customer. Sorry for that. I think I lost the connectivity. I think my power fluctuated. Sorry for that. I'll get back to where I was. I hope you can hear me, Ruth. Right. Doreen, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Sorry for that. I think I may have some network challenge here.
A couple of things. So just going to go with I'm going to go with
Immaculate, I think we can hear you. Maybe somebody can mute. All right, good. So I was talking about these global shifts that are happening globally, and I hope you can relate with them. It is good just to make sure at least these things are things that are relatable to you and you can relate with them because we are living in the same world reality, okay? So maybe I'll ask you on the chat to tell me which one do you think it's relating with your case or what you have evidence in your workplace. Very important to share that. So just put for me on the chat, which among these global threats that you think are kind of evident, you can relate with them. And I know a few others to show before we get into the process. Thank you, Ruth. Profit to purpose, that's good. Anybody else? Which one do you think is relating to you? I'll just show you a few others. The others are transactional to behavioral threats. We have no longer now entrusting or kind of just relying on what we call transactional data. Like that case I was talking about of the guy who was trying to get a loan from the bank. The bank was trying to rely on the transactional data, just the basic minimum data, the deposits and withdrawals for the bank account. That's transactional. It's too little to be able to predict anything. Then, of course, instinctive to evidence-based, long and gone where we used to make decisions based on just the gut feeling and the instinct. Doesn't mean that the gut is not intelligent, no. But we need to validate it also with data. Then, of course, social capital is so sorry. I think today my net is quite a bit unstable. Really sorry for this. Keep fluctuating. I've switched the router, see whether it will be going to be stable. Good. So so the other thing is we are moving from decentralized to centralized environment, and that's also is coupling what we call owning to shared environment. We all know that nowadays you don't have to own anything. Largely, you don't need to own a car. You can share it through Uber platform. This is what making many businesses to be able to start what we call platform ecosystem or platform businesses. Is to create what you call a shared economy or a shared environment of operating our business. Again, these are huge shifts. And if you check well, all of them are leveraged on data. They have linkages to data. If you had time, of course, you can be able to go through each one of them in terms of how it's impacted by big data. Now, the Internet of Things, and I hope you can hear me, the Internet of Things is quite very fascinating. In 1 second, we have over 191, Google search it. We have 122,000 YouTube videos watched within 1 second. You can imagine right now, I think we almost 20 plus minutes into the webinar, how much content has been created, whether it's on Facebook, the X, the former Twitter, the Instagram, and many others. We have too much data being collected on a daily basis. Question is, and it's for all of us, what portion of this have you claimed for you and for your organization? How is this 122,000 videos watched every second helping you as a digital asset? Is it just a number? Is it just transaction in the Internet of Things? Not really. How are these 10 new websites created every second helping you as an individual, as a professional, as a business person, as a reader? It's a big question for all of us because data form part of an asset. And this data is in a democratized space where, of course, anybody can access Facebook pages, Twitter, of course, is classified part. But largely, this is data that is an asset that is being created every day, every second. So if you ask yourself, you as an individual, how much of it have you used for your own competitive advantage? You'll discover that we really have barely started utilizing the big data. And that's why this forum is very important. So there's this body called World Economic Forum. I think we know it. Sometimes they release some articles in terms of the trends in the marketplace. And in 2023, they say that the top around 10 or so most demanded need for reskilling and upskilling. As you can see there, analytical thinking, creative thinking. And then there's AI and big data as number 3. And actually, I can almost relate with all the others. They are all revolving around thinking, which is mindset. If you check all of them, they have an aspect of thinking. And that's why even the big data itself, you'll come to discover it has to do with curiosity and design thinking, the ability to solution, the ability to question and be able to experiment your curiosity. So you'll discover actually it has to do with the mindset than the technical skill. There are people who just think, oh, I want to become a data scientist, and therefore you just go and learn Python, learn R, and be able to do those machine learning algorithm. It is not necessarily so. That's technical. If it is not coupled by curiosity and design thinking, it is not successful. You'll not be able to do even better in a project. So that's why thinking is very important, and that's what I wanted to amplify here. But you can see data features among the top high demanded literacy areas in the 21st century, particularly around this time that we are living in. So with that, then let's do a quick checkpoint, and I hope you can be able to flow with me here. If I am to ask you the following questions and related with your own context of your organization, very simple questions. Number 1, what percentage of your functional and strategic decision points are mapped to data? If I give you an assignment, you go and tabulate all your decision points. You have your standard operating processes in your company, list down all the processes and their tasks and the decision points, then map each one of them to data point. What percentage will be done? What percent actually will be mapped to data? Anytime we do this organizational diagnostics, we usually get 122% of organization decisions are actually built on data. Majority of it are left to what we call expert opinion or experience. You've done something for so long that becomes your truth. Another question is, what's the current and lifetime value of your current data? If leading data is an asset, if data is an asset, just the way if you buy a property somewhere, you can actually track the value, the valuation of that property. You can tell this property is worth 1 million. Even human capital, people are assets, they are capital. You can actually be able to deduce value. Question is, if data is also capital, how much is it worth? And that's a very big question. When I ask even CEOs such of these questions, I usually don't get answers. That means something you don't recognize, you'll never leverage. That's the truth of the matter. If you don't appreciate that data is an asset, data is capital, then you'll never, if you don't recognize it, you'll never leverage it. So you can try to ask this question even in your own organizations. Try to track, how are we deliberate in terms of leveraging it? How many business experiments have you done in the last 1 year based on data insights? It's a very simple question. Are there business experiments you have commissioned in your enterprises just because the data told you to do it? Are there any? Can you be able to showcase that? That shows you whether you're really leveraging data or not. Let's get another question. How long does it take to provide strategic information needed for decision making? Another very big question. Now, this is the standard. If it takes you 5 minutes, if it takes you more than 5 minutes to produce any information or insight needed for strategic decision making, any minute after 5th minute is redundancy. Now, I'm sure if I am to get this vulnerability from you, maybe let me pose a question there. How long does it take you to do a monthly report? Maybe put on the chat and don't be embarrassed about the time. How long does it take to do a monthly report? Maybe put it in days or hours, whichever. Can I get somebody vulnerable enough? 2 to 3 days. Thank you, Ruth. Anybody else? 2 weeks, Carlos. You need to see me by the tent. Anybody else? 1 week, Rose. Anybody else? Thank you. 2 days, Adeke Moira. 1 hour, Immaculate. Good. 1 to 2 days, Mugisha. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that vulnerability. Now, as I shock you, if it takes more than 5 minutes to be able to access any information for strategic decision making, whether it's daily visibility of your maybe performance, or weekly, or monthly, or annual. If it takes more than 5 minutes, in the current age of time we are in, there is redundancy there. Any time after 5 minutes, count that as a redundant time. Because ideally, any strategic information should be gotten almost real time, meaning even less than a second or less than 2 seconds. But how do you achieve that? It's a whole maturity area. That's why the competency is very critical in terms of big data. What percentage of your value of innovation? So if you go and take all your solutions you offer as a company, whether they are product or services, what percentage of them are portfolio that has come up from data? Has data brought you a new insight of a new product? And what is the value for that? So what is the percentage portfolio value of innovation from solutions designed from data-led insights? Now, these are questions we ask, especially at the ExCo level, boardroom, and you get silence. Nobody is able to articulate this. And that's why it's very critical for us to build this competence. What is your insights funnel? Now, ideas have a funnel. The way you do sales, from sales, usually say you have leads, prospects, and then all the way prospects, and then all the way to get the client's conversion, what you call customer conversion, leads conversion. Now, we also have the same for ideas. Ideas have a funnel where you get from ideas become impact. We call it the idea to impact pathway. So if I go to a company and ask them, okay, what is your insight funnel of conversion of ideas to impact? How many ideas are in the funnel? They're in different stages of ideation as they become impact. And they are all backed with the data. You always get silence again. And the few organizations that have been able to hack this, these are the leading organizations we have currently. Then, what is the worth of your proprietary assets or knowledge from data again? So these are not very easy questions. If I'm to dissect each one of these questions, it will trigger your maturity, what you call data-driven maturity. Because if you cannot be able to articulate this, then it seems that we are not yet there. We are not yet mature in terms of leveraging data for impact. The last one, of course, what's the predictive maintenance we do for your motor vehicle? That's a very simple question. And I don't mean motor vehicles alone, it could be any asset. What is the predictive maintenance? Can you be able to predict in future in terms of how the maintenance of your warehouses, of your machinery, and all that will be using data? So this is for your own consumption. You can take this and probably bounce it with your team leaders and see whether there's going to be any attempt to answer these questions. So with that, then let's appreciate what you call the fourth industrial revolution so that we can be able to have a feel of where we are. We all know we have gone through fourth industrial revolution. Currently, people have already started talking about the fifth industrial revolution. We are yet to define exactly how it's going to be. The people who are saying the fifth and the sixth industrial revolution is likely to come at the same time. I think, still a bit more hypothetical, but I think I can see the reality where it's heading to. Now, Industry 4.0, we started with the first industrial revolution back in 18th century, where we were using water as the source of power. Then later we moved into second industrial revolution where we were using electricity and magnetism. That's why we can have our rooms lit. We have electricity and magnetism. We call it the hidden power, of course, because that energy, you cannot see it. It's at the electromagnetic level. So we were using electricity and magnetism as the source of energy. Then after that, we went to the third, which we call the first information revolution. Notice that word there. The third industrial revolution is also called first information revolution. It's the first time we were able to organize information because of the emergence of computer and internet-based knowledge. Notice that word, internet-based knowledge. That's a very, very key word. And that's what we are calling information age. Information was the king. As we speak right now, information is no longer the king. We are now at a new phase we call the fourth industrial revolution, where we combine information with intelligence, because information will give you intelligence. And with that, then we have now the new dispensation where knowledge or intelligence age is the theme. We are calling this age, of course, the age of intelligence. Intelligence is synonymous to knowledge, and I'm going to give that description way later. When you hear about the word intelligence, it is synonymous to knowledge. So pack that behind your mind. We are going to get that again in another slide somewhere. So knowledge is synonymous to intelligence. When we are talking about the knowledge age, that is what we mean with the intelligence age. And that's what we call fourth industrial revolution. It comes with other technologies, of course, things like the blockchain technology, what we call cryptography, Web3, and many other things that, of course, are part of these fourth industrial revolution. So with that, then we see few disciplines coming in here. What we call decision science. We are now demanding that every decision should be backed with data. And that's why big data analytics and data science have become huge disciplines. Then from there, AI has come in, where we have machine learning, deep learning, and robotics. They're almost all components of AI. Of course, machine learning is just to be able to train a machine to be able to mimic human judgment. So you train a machine with huge data sets, and then that machine is able to pick patterns, and if it pick patterns, it's able to almost articulate and anticipate what's going to happen. So you kind of can do predictions from that. Deep learning, of course, on the other side is how you train machines to mimic human behavior, human intelligence. And that's how we also learn as individuals, what we call neural networks. The way you learn from a baby, when you're a baby and you become an adult, you follow that process, what we call neural networks. So that example of that is actually what we do in what we call deep learning. Just how you train a baby generally. It's a purely human learning. Then robotics, of course, is an embodiment of the other two, where now, of course, you can create. And robotics is not a physical thing. Robotics can be just a software or an algorithm thing that is able to interpret judgment. That can replace, of course, a human being to a large extent in terms of the transactional work. Then all these are powered by a technology, what we call the quantum cloud computing, distributed networks, Web3, that's where blockchain comes in, and many other technologies that, of course, are in this current age. So these are the things that are now happening. These are the key drivers for this current age. And it's always good for every one of us to have an idea of how each one of them affect you as a leader or a professional. So we usually say if the big data is the oil, then the AI is the engine. So the AI need big data because AI is not just thing that happens, it is trained from other intelligence, and that intelligence comes from big data. So the big data is what trains algorithms in terms of the AI. Of course, there are different types of AIs, but at least large part of it is where we train machines using the data, historical data. Now, but that's not the exhaustive meaning of AI, definitely. So look at the customer also. Customer is changing. Customer want empowerment. Customer want personalization. Customer want on-demand care. Customer want differentiated value. How can you achieve all these without data? I don't have any idea. For you to give me personalized care, it means you need to know about me. For you to give me on-demand care or on-demand solution, you have to have predicted my behavior in future, so that you know next year Gabriel is likely to buy an iPhone. So that when I need it, I don't have to apply then. It's actually pre-qualified for me, what we call prescriptive. You can't do on-demand service without having data. This is what is happening in the customer changing in terms of the preferences and also employees themselves. So how do you also differentiate yourself from another competitor? Again, you have to have the intelligence. So you can see all around us, the only way we can be able to prove that we are building customer centricity, employee experience, customer experience is if we are able to leverage on data. Now, a quick overview of this space. We have the age of empowered customer. You go to a doctor, before a doctor even give you medicine, you have already Googled that medicine, and you even know the side effects of the medicine. So with that, what happens is that, of course, that even by the time the doctor is telling you, go and take these 2 times 3 per day, you're already telling the doctor, oh, but I can see it has side effect on this. Because you are empowered, because information empowers people. So customer expectations are really changing. They have a lot of information about us, about our services. So they have a choice, get it now or go elsewhere. So they're empowered to make a decision. And you can see some statistics down there in terms of aborted business value. In fact, we are losing so much businesses in various digital platforms just because of basic customer empowerment. So a customer wants to enjoy a service, but in the midway, they get an information, they get a review. Nowadays, people have to review. I'm sure even by the time you attend this webinar, maybe you have gone online and looked for Ruth, check who is this Ruth, check who is this Gabriel, check all those things. Why? You're empowered. And you can go and do your due diligence. By the time you make a judgment that I'm coming for the webinar, you even have some information before coming here. Number two, the empowered age, of course, is where three things are happening. Everyone is your competitor. You believe with me that currently you are not competing with your villagers. You are not competing with your countrymen. You are competing with anybody in the world. Anybody in the world. Number two, anyone can be your competitor. That's potential issue. Anyone can be your competitor. So again, you're competing with any potential, whether somebody seated in Bangladesh, Singapore, US, Malaysia, South Africa, anybody can be your competitor. And anyone can be your customer as well. And that's the good thing. Today, you don't necessarily have to start establishment in different countries. You can be able to learn anywhere because of the enablement that we have, both for technology and also with the data. But the customer himself or herself is keen to be understood as an individual. And this is where the concept of personalization comes in. I want to feel Gabriel in a solution. I know most of us are in companies where we like putting manuals, policies, and they are good because we need to standardize our operations and our service delivery. But we have to be very flexible enough or agile enough to be able to accommodate personalized attention to our customers. You can lose a customer just because of not being able to customize their experience. Because what leads my experience is not Joseph's experience, is not the Doreen experience. It's very different. So if you don't have enough data about me, then how do you personalize an experience to me? It's very hard. So I don't want to be understood just as a transaction. The way we analyze systems and you say, so-and-so have transacted twice. So you are labeling about me is about the transaction seated in your system. That's a very unhuman or inhuman. We are looking on what we call human-centered experience. So you need to go beyond just a transaction. Don't tell me about the deposit I've made if you're in a banking or where I've visited, if at all I'm just, maybe you're in an insurance and you're checking, oh, you have been mountain climbing, so you are risky, we need to charge you more premium. No, go build a transaction. Personalize my experience as Gabriel. Go build a demographic. Don't tell me, oh, Generation Z, Millennial, Baby Boomer, Generation X, Generation Y. No, that's again a blanket. So people are demanding personalized, and that's what we call quantum approach, the micro level, the bite-sized level of engagement. Now, this is the question. How do you do that without data? You can't go to the granular level of personalizing my experience. We don't have a lot of attributes about me. And what do you need to focus on? You need to focus on a wider perspective or data for me, for you to understand me as Gabriel. I have demographic, that's okay. I have transaction, the one that is black there, that's transaction. I have interaction, the one in red. I have the green, which is behavioral. And in fact, that's currently the one that is so being used currently. One of the disruptions I showed you, I think there are around 12. You saw somewhere, so you said that you're moving from what you call transactional to behavioral approach. When you understand behavior and mindset, you have a chance to predict people's future trends, whether it's their spending patterns and all that. And you may find some of these things we may need to rely with either social media, we may to rely with data that we collect from our call center and many other things, okay? So that's very critical. So question for you in your organization is, how are we leveraging our big data in all these dimensions? Are we focusing on demographic data, transaction data, interaction data, and behavioral data? To be able to make sure at least our decision, whether it's for customers, whether you're producing new products and all that, are they all leveraged using wide breadth of data? How predictive must we become, of course, to our customer? It's a big question. We may not have an answer line now. So evolution of analytics. Analytics have evolved over a period of time, just like any other discipline. So when we started, I think when I personally started getting data science space, it was not even called data science because it's purely analytics. That's many years ago. Data science have just emerged maybe in the last around 10 years. But there before, of course, it was just within the drowning space of analytics and all that. But some of the concepts were still being used even that back then because AI is not new. I think even back in 70, there was still be a form of AI that was still being used, but in a very classified environment. So let me talk about decision science because this is the basis in which you build your big data and AI projects. Number one, it requires cross-functional application of design thinking skills. Now notice, the greatest skill set you require to thrive in this century is not knowing how to do a code in Python or R, or use Tableau for BI, or use Power BI for dashboard, use advanced Excel. No, those are just tools. If you lack design thinking, you can master all those data science toolkits, but still not be able to do anything. So the most critical component is the design thinking. And that is aroused by what you call curiosity. Number two, of course, is you have to have a domain. Domain means an area that you're an expert in, meaning, of course, if you're an accountant, you're a finance person, or any other field, you need to have your domain skill. Then mathematics is critical because, of course, you need to do a bit of computing. Then technology, because you need to use tools. You know, some of the technology you have to use, like Python, R, advanced Excel, and you can use so many tools out there for building data models. Then, of course, behavioral science, because as I said, the world has gone to behavioral. So you need to understand how human beings behave. Very important. Big data can be defined as just a large amount of data sets that can be analyzed, whether structured or unstructured. Meaning, the emoji, I know most of us use emojis. Have you asked yourself why, when using the emoji, especially WhatsApp or even Telegram, and the last most emojis you have used, maybe you have used some few last emojis, like 10 or 5 of them, will always appear closer. Have you ever thought that that's a data issue? Yes. And in fact, your combination of emojis that you use can probably even tell a personality about you without doing any psychometry assessment. And that's why you find most of these social media sites, they are collecting a lot of data. And this data is more behavioral, and they are being used to even predict you, your personality, how you look like when you get old, you are aging, because they can scan your image and tell you people of similar image and, you know, the morphology of your skin and all that. In the future, they are likely to be like this when they grow old. All those things are actually data-driven. Why? They are built on data algorithms. So you scan the several images and can compare images and say, yeah, I think you are likely to have wrinkles here and at the face and all that. And then, you know, over millions and millions of images combinations can produce how you look like when you get old. You call it AI, but I am here to say behind that AI, there is big data. That's why I'll be more interested in the big data than the AI, because AI comes as a result of. So the comments, the likes, the pages you visit, you visit a page and tomorrow you start getting some advertisement coming to you. You download an app on your phone, whether Android or iOS, and you access a certain site, and all of a sudden, you start seeing some adverts customized for you specifically, very personalized to you. And they are very tempting. They will make sure they will sell something that actually, literally you need. What is happening behind the scene? Big data. As I said, it's only that we don't appreciate what is happening around us. Currently, we are all around the big data. Everything that is happening in the world right now is all anchored on big data. So the comments, the likes, the shares, the emoji, social pages, the pages you visit, all those things, you are leaving a trail, including where you travel. I was interviewing some insurance professionals where currently, of course, they're building algorithms where you don't need to fill in an underwriting form that help us tell you how much to pay as premium. Why? If I tell about your behavior, personality, where you travel, whenever you travel, if you have a Gmail, you have a Gmail timeline, what you call Google timeline. It's tracking how you move. So I can see maybe you are climbing mountains, you are going into very dangerous, lethal gaming. Then I can say, hey, Ruth, you are very risky. So for you, we'll charge you life cover at 100,000. Why? We have data about you, which you have never filled a form. You've never completed a form. Because we can troll you. You can check your social media and all that and tell more about you. That's how powerful big data is. So if that happens, then why do we need to hire underwriters in an insurance company? How do we need to hire risk people who just go to analyze risk in a manual way to profile how much a loan I need to qualify? Really, that's not the world that we're living in. So very soon, some of those are going to be replaced because you don't need a human being to do that. There's enough data out there. As much as there's what you call veracity, which is the truthfulness, not all data is truthful. That's why we have the 4 V's there, the 5 V's, sorry. The volume of data determines the kind of stacks to use or technology to use. The variety, you need to go beyond. You need to go beyond just one type of data. When you're capturing customer data, sometimes you only capture their age, where they come from. That's so basic. We need to have variety, different sources of data, and of course, attributes of data. Veracity is truthfulness. Value is the business value of the data. And then finally, the velocity, which is purely the speed of change of the data, to what extent the data changes. If you're doing a survey, for example, that velocity is very low because it's a one-time discrete process. But if data is coming continuously every second, of course, that becomes more continuous and it's more reliable. So we usually rely on data that has high velocity. High velocity data, it's more easy to be able to give you more patterns, and you can test so many scenarios in building our machine learning algorithms. Now, of course, what are some of the applications of big data? You can apply it in something we call natural language processing. For those who have a call center, you know, nowadays you don't necessarily have to get somebody who listens to those calls. I know you usually record calls and you hear people saying this call is being recorded for quality purposes. Means what they do, they have hired some relationship managers, call center managers who sample some few calls, then they listen to them. And they'll come and tell you, hey, Ruth here, maybe you didn't talk to the customer well. I can say that's actually a waste of time. You know, you maybe Pius was in the contact center, and then you come and later tell Pius, the way you talk to that customer, you are rude. But you had to listen to the call so that you tell me I was rude. That's very old school. Why? Using natural language, you can be able to program in a way that, of course, you can pick sentiments from the statements that somebody is making and tell, here you are shouting, here you are rude. Because the choice of keywords, the tone variation of your speech can be tracked. And that can be converted from voice to text, and then you do text analysis and can be able to do sentimental analysis and be able to tell you whether you serve the customer well without having somebody to come and listen. So I know there are so many contact centers where that is being done, but that's purely being lately done currently. Same case with the brand tracking. If you want to track how your brand is being mentioned out there, is it mentioned negatively or whatever, we do sentimental analytics. You just need to point a tool to, let's say, your Twitter page, the X, or Instagram, or Facebook, or LinkedIn, and can analyze to what extent your brand has been mentioned. That's application of big data. So you can do what you call brand perception index, brand awareness, brand health check using just big data. Then computer vision is being used, especially in the healthcare, the medical, but also for marketing. It's very also used in security. We have all these things installed, our CCTV cameras on the highway, in the airports, all of our stages, and all those things. They are scanning data. One of the major breakthrough on computer vision is actually what we call medical diagnostics. What happens is that if I scan 1 million health chests, you know, I do chest scans for healthy people, people who are very healthy. I take 1 million scans and I check how their chest look like, and I store them. Then I can now scan yours, who probably you come maybe coughing, you have a challenge on your chest, and the AI using the data, pure data, meaning the previous 1 million scanned chest X-rays, because it is able to tell me a health check X-ray should look like this by scanning so many of them. Then that from a prototype of an ideal chest. Then I compare with now you, if you're coming as a patient, I take an X-ray, check your chest, then I compare with this million. I'm able to quickly diagnose anomaly on your chest than any one qualified doctor can ever do in the world. In fact, they say such AI platforms are 100 times more accurate than the doctor, the ever, who you can call the most genius doctor in the world, cannot reach that level. In fact, that's why nowadays, we're even doing what you call open heart surgery. Purely a robot can come and do an operation of you without any human being, and it will be more accurate than a doctor seated there. Why? That's purely a data issue. You have trained the machine with millions and millions and billions of database, such that then it can be able to give an ideal, and then, of course, can be able to diagnose a solution. Machine learning, of course, big thing happening all over. I think we are all now very, using this ChatGPT and many other language models out there. They are a form of application of machine learning. Also trained from a lot of, how did the ChatGPT happen? Of course, you take all authoritative knowledge, meaning books, journals, magazine, published articles, scientific journals. You let an AI lead all of them. And you know, an AI can lead 1 million books in several seconds. So it read all of them and create a dictionary of the knowledge of the truth. So a combination of anybody who have ever written philosophical books, scientific books, all those things, computer programming, you can generate computer codes, all those things, models. The AI has been trained on all those. That's why they had an issue, I think, the other day when you saw, I think for those who follow that, ChatGPT was being sued last year because of, there are people who said, yeah, they're using books like your book and my book, and they're not paying me any royalty about it. And I know that case most likely is still in the court. So that's purely machine learning issue projects. Then digital assets, I think these are also very helpful in terms of intelligent products development. So these are all applications of big data in the current reality. Of course, we are seeing them in like self-driven cars, which is also part of the machine learning, building kind of from machine learning, also combination of that and computer vision can give you a self-driven car. You can scan so many images of a bump and you train the machine to interpret a bump ahead. That's purely computer vision. And I get a chance to interact with one of the data scientists who was doing the machine algorithm for, I think it's Facebook and Amazon for self-driven car project they were trying to do as a research. I interacted with the data scientist, very phenomenal experience in terms of what they were doing. And there's a lot of work happening behind the scene even currently, especially within Africa as we speak. So there are practical applications of big data in so many areas. Right now, I don't have necessarily to ask you for a CV per se. If at all you're in social media, I can analyze you and tell you, oh, you can make a good manager or a good employee, or I can actually reject you, which of course bring other issues of discrimination, okay? Because again, AI can also be alleged to kind of promote discrimination in one way. So on one side, we have what we call metrics, and I know this is common. We have what we call quantified low measurements from an observation is what we call metrics. So if you're tracking expenses, revenue, and you produce some metrics there, those are just metrics. Then analytics, that's where metrics stops. Where metrics end is the beginning of analytics, because now we need to process the information. Metrics gives you information. But then, of course, you need now to go beyond and be able to have insights derived from that information. And that's now what gets us into what we call data analytics. The evolution of the data, it was what we call analytics value path, goes through the following. Data by itself is just a heap of crap. Crap is just a heap of something somewhere, disorganized in a certain way. Most data is not usually very organized. It's mixed up. So, but when it's sorted, it gives you information. When it is arranged, it gives you some intelligence. When it's presented in a certain way, it gives you some patterns at which you can deduce some insights. And later, when you apply design thinking, it can be explained in a story to form a building. Same blocks, but presented differently. That's how data can create a house. That's what we call this data to evolution, data to impact pathway. And the next slide I'm going to share with you is actually like the climax of this presentation. So I want you to pay attention. So before then, let me know whether you're still following me, kindly. Show me a thumb up. I want to even stop sharing just to allow you. Show me a thumb up if you're still following. Thank you, Rose. Anybody else? I want to make sure at least I'm not alone. I need company. Thank you. This is Immaculate. Anybody else? Christian Nani, Davies, Titin, are you following me? Davies, thank you. Who else? We have Dorothy. Right, thank you. Thank you, Koros. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Good. It's always good to make sure at least I am not speaking alone here. Good. So follow carefully the next slide. I know for those who may have attended most of my sensitizations, it's a slide that probably I have shared before. But pay attention to it because it's usually the key epitome of this analytics literacy. Now, actually, it's the next slide, not this one. We have types of analytics, which I think most of us, actually maybe you have seen this before, but just for the sake of we've seen this for the first time, we have 5 types of analytics. We have what we call descriptive, where you describe what has happened. What have just happened? Most of your reports are descriptive. When you're giving me a report saying we have booked 2 clients worth 3 million sales, that's historical. That's what happened. That's descriptive. It's the lowest level of reporting. From there, of course, you do what you call diagnostic, where you not just report what has happened, you ask why. You do diagnostics. majority of us, this is where we get stuck. We don't do diagnostics. We rarely do diagnostics. Then from there, we go to what we call predictive, where now you say, aha, what will happen in future? When will it happen? And why will it happen? That's a game changer. So you cannot do predictive if you didn't do diagnostics, because the modeling happens at the diagnostic level, where you decide which factors to use, which variables to use, what are the correlations and all that, so that then you build in predictive models. Then finally, second last is what you call prescriptive analysis, where of course you ask yourself, what are the scenarios in future I can mimic right now to inform combinations of decisions that are prescriptive? For those who are in Kenya, of course, is what this product that Safaricom offers, our telecom here, called Furiza, which is purely an auto-approved, what you call pre-approved overdraft. That is a prescriptive analytics. It means you profiles a client and even pre-approve and say, this is already available for you, just pay it. It's a non-demand service. That become a prescriptive analytics. Then finally, if you drop the human being from the prescriptive analytics, where you drop the human being who doing it, you get what you call cognitive analytics. So the difference between cognitive analytics and prescriptive is just drop the human being. We get what you call autonomous learning. It is prescriptive analytics minus human being. So that last stage is pure AI driven with no human intervention. And that's why you have things like automotives that are being autonomous driven car, where you don't have a driver to really drive that car. The drones that sometimes will go away and they have intelligence, of course, they are mostly for what you call cognitive analytics. So those are the five types of analytics. Now let's listen to this last slide, which is the most important slide that I think in all my presentation. And follow me carefully. Many organizations are what we call data rich, information poor. And you can also call it data rich, insight poor. But we want to move organizations to what we call data rich, information rich, or data rich, insight rich, or data rich, intelligence rich. All of them have I. Information, intelligence, all those I. So how do you go about this? Number one, at the data phase, you have to make sure at least there's data integrity. So recorded or raw record of observations is what we call data. And data by itself in the crude way, it's like the crude oil. It can't drive any automobile until you refine the oil, you clean it. So you have to clean the oils for it to be able to be meaningful. If you dig gold, you find gold mixed up with other things. So you have to separate gold with the other impurities for you to extract the gold. So data by itself is not necessarily so valuable until you clean it. So, but the concern in the data is what you call data integrity. Is the data accurate? Is it complete? All those things. Number two is information. Information is where now you organize the data to form a certain pattern, which of course is set against some standards and level of adequacy. The concern here is standards and adequacy of the information. For those who used to remember geography, in geography we used to draw graphs. And when you draw a graph on a paper, it used to be called a two-dimensional diagram, or we used to call it Cartesian plane, the X and Y coordinate. And on it, you can draw so many geographic objects. You can draw a rectangle, you can draw a circle, an oval, a square, all those things. Why? They're on a two-dimension, so you can define the wind and the height. Now, data is usually a one-dimension. Information is always two-dimension. It's why you expand and organize data. Let me give you an example. An example could be, for example, in the data you have, let's say, sales data. So when you report things like the revenue, total revenue, you report things like total expenses, those are just data. When you go to information, you'll be talking about, let's say, average revenue per market segment. Now, notice that are different. I have added a dimension. So I'm saying average revenue per market segment. That is no longer data. That is information. And I hope you follow me carefully here. From there, you get what you call intelligence. Now, intelligence is where, of course, now you convert the information into knowledge. Now, knowledge is truth, is a form of truth. I know that is very deep, if you are following me. Intelligence is synonymous to knowledge. Knowledge is a form of truth. For those who believe in the Bible, you know that thou shalt know the truth and the truth will set you free. Now, in the intelligence, you check what you call elements. When you hear intelligence guys like security guys, NSIS saying, we have an intelligence that there's going to be some terror attack somewhere, they are telling you that we know the truth, that this is already planned, and if you don't do anything about it, it's going to be bad and ugly. So they are not saying you, they are not telling you that as a gabble. They're telling you precisely that there's going to have this challenge or this kind of an incident to happen. So in a certain authority, knowledge gives you authority. So what kind of intelligence does data give you so that you can tell that intelligence with authority? Number 4 is what you call insight. Insight is the actionable element that comes from intelligence. Okay? The actionable element that comes from intelligence is what you call insight. And this is very powerful because this is where mostly we are failing, because we are only stopping at information. And therefore, we just become data-rich, information poor, but we don't get the data-rich, intelligence-rich. So at the insight level is where you focus on business context and actionability of the insight that you accrue from the intelligence. So you cannot deduce insight if the insight themselves are not intelligent, because you shall be doing what you call gathering. Now, the last stage is what you call the impact. So at the impact stage here, you're talking about a memorable story that is an impact or a value that is accrued from implementing the insights. So insights must be executable, literally. But for those insights, they must be intelligent. Now, let me read it backwards. So you create a business, memorable business testimony, which we call the impact, from actionable insight. That actionable insight might have been backed by a certain knowledge of truth, which we call intelligence. The intelligence is deduced from the patterns of data called information. And information is derived from the crude oil, which we call the data. If you understand this pathway, I can say you are maybe 70% way above typical professionals in the marketplace. I have mentored, I have interacted with even data scientists, literally, who actually don't hack this. So they'll be nice, they can do for you nice models and machine learning algorithm, but if you question them in terms of show me the information, show me the intelligence, show me the insights, they can't differentiate between all these. And that's why we have a data literacy gap in the market. So you're privileged at least to be able to get this kind of information, because this area is young, I know, yes, we didn't have many data science professionals before, so you're still building this knowledge over time. So there before, there was very thin line between a data scientist and a data analyst. Now we know the clarity. So if you understand this, it is going to be a game changer for your life. Let me give you a story which I have told many times and I can still repeat it here. Then when I give you the story, I want you, of course, to answer some questions at the end. So we had done an assignment for one microfinance organization, which is purely a fintech. And they'd given us their own book, very huge gallery of loan book, millions and millions of rows of data to analyze and advise them on how they can do to improve the quality of their own book. They had billions of loans that actually were not paid. So we were doing the analysis and we went through the data, analyzing the loan book, trying to get the patterns. Then we discovered in one of our analytics movements and the brainstorming that the majority of the loans, which are approximately 68% of the loans, almost 2/3 thereabout. For those that were paying loans, this made what we call the healthy book. They were paying between a certain time of the day, like a span of 2 hours somewhere, let's say 5 to 6 in the day. Then we started questioning, why, how come people are paying between this time? Why, how comes? What is motivating the behavior to pay between, let's say, 4 and 6? So majority of the loans were being repaid. Mobile money, they were paid a certain period of time. So we went ahead and tried to study that. Then we discovered a certain psychological model, which is a behavior model, which talks about that when you are just about to indulge on something, you tend to remember a commitment or an obligation. If you go to a shopping mall and you're just about to spend, you're just about to go and do an expensive shopping, it's the time you remember, I had promised my mom whatever, a microwave, or I owe somebody some money. So before I spend, let me pay that person. That's the reason why these guys were paying. The behavior of the customer was that people are paying at a particular period of time during the day. So when we discover that, it's called a guilt model. When we cover the guilt model, what we did, we said, how can we make people more guilty? So we told the marketer, the guys in charge of communications, can you queue a bulk SMS? And we said, okay, if we make people more guilty, we are likely to provoke them to repay the loan. So we queued a bulk SMS 30 minutes before the time we had picked that they had a lot of traction of repayments. So because if people are paying between 4 and 6, for example, we need to encourage more people to pay that time. So we queued a bulk SMS and also a bulk email, what I may call an intelligent strategic initiative, not just a wishy-wishy, where you think, oh, let me send an SMS at night. Who told you at night is going to receive that? So we had tested the hypothesis literally. So we sent that bulk SMS. Now, shock on us in 2 months, we were able to improve the loan book of that company by 40%. So about 38% was also going to almost 40%. 38%, which is almost 40% improvement on the loan book. And I remember a conversation we had with the CEO that, Gabriel, you know, I had hired debt recovery managers before. These debt recovery managers, for 1 year, a person being paid half a million salary every month. For a whole year, those two managers who are doing debt recoveries, trying to do restructuring, calling those defaulters, they only had improved their own book by less than 5%. Or a whole year. 1 whole year, they had only improved their own book by 5%. This data project alone, in less than 2 months, we had improved by 38%. And I remember the team that was telling me, the CEO and the ex-co was telling me, Gabby, we feel conned. We are wasting our money by hiring more headcounts. Why? Most of our organizations are still old school. They are not leveraging data. Yet you are seated on huge, huge data sets. And I remember the conversation was, wait a minute. Why do we need to hire more debt recoveries when the data can tell us where to go to do? And that's become the hack. What we call the 21st century hack is this data-driven intelligence. I can give you so many stories about data stories. And these are practical projects that we have done and we keep doing every day. Every day there's something we are doing somewhere. So whenever we are faced with a business challenge, we have an option. Throw a technology. We think a technology can solve the issue. No, it's not technology. It's the intelligence in the technology. Or we throw a head count. We hire somebody. We think hiring a new head count will solve an issue. So we are busy hiring, no improvement on our productivity and even performance. Now, in my story, now an assignment for you. In my story, what was my data? Kindly put on the chart. Which data did we use? Now it's an exam time. Which data did I use in that project? What was the data? Kindly let's share. What was my data? I'm tracking any comments. Yeah, I can see one. The data was the notebook. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. What was my information? What was the information? Data was notebook. I agree. What was the information? What was the information? Coral, try again. Immaculate, try to paraphrase. Martin, I think, yes, the pattern payment of those who are paid. But what was it? What was it? Give me the information. Loshua, you need to try again. Thank you for the attempt. Martin, you're almost. The default rate in terms of I don't know, that's why I shared that. It's almost similar there, but you're not getting the specifics. What was that information that we got from the data? Martin, you can paraphrase your statement because it's almost there. People pay at a particular time. In fact, the information was this: over 67% of those who had healthy loan book were paying between a certain specific time of the day. That was the information. Don't mistake between data, information, and intelligence. Now, what was my intelligence? What was the intelligence? And there's somebody who have attempted. Kathleen, you have attempted, but what did I call it? Kathleen, you're almost there. What was my intelligence? What was our intelligence in the process? Kathleen, you're almost there. What was the intelligence? Hey, it's test time. I want to check whether you have understood me. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ruth. The guilt model. Now, I hope you guys can connect the dots. When I began, there's a slide I showed you about the different attributes of data you must capture. And there was even one thread I said, we are moving from transactional to behavioral. Now, the guilt model has nothing to do with the loans. And this is where the hack is. The guilt model sits in a behavioral space, not in the transaction. And that's where we have many organizations not hacking. So if you don't go to the behavioral level, you'll never understand human behavior and patterns. And you can never then predict the preferences of customers and employees. So the guilt model, yes, that's actually our intelligence. What was the insights? And the insight is always like a hypothesis to give you a hint. I have very good students. Now I can see you guys are qualified to be certified data-led professionals. That is what is lacking in the market. It's not lack of the technical skills, it's that thinking. What was my insights? Because I need to add my talk in a few. What is our insights? Actionable insights. I use the word if. Aha, okay, yeah, you are tempting. Ruth, no, that's not the insight. Martin, yes. The insight was, now this is how you paraphrase insights. Insights are always done as a hypothesis. This is the way you can construct a statement of an insight. You say like this: if we make people more guilty before the time that they overindulge, we are going to provoke them to remember they have an obligation to honor. I hope you see that paraphrased version of a statement. That is an insight now. An insight might be something that has an action in it and a hypothesis in it, meaning a model of factors that you can correlate. So here I'm correlating that if I make people more guilty, it's a cause effect. If I cause this, I'm going to effect this. That's what we call an insight. I hope you get this very clearly. So if we make people more guilty, now on how to make people more guilty is where the issue of, we can send a bulk SMS, you can send a bulk email, you can do a phone call, but now you're doing it intelligently, knowing during this time, the vulnerability of my customer is very high, that it's very easy to convert them. Now, notice if you're able to discover this, how fast you can even do selling and marketing. If you know how behaviors work, let me tell you, it's very easy to win people. Now, what was my impact? Somebody have just mentioned it somewhere now. The impact is the ed story. The ed story is that we were able to improve the loan book by 40% within a record 2 months, where 2 senior managers, debt recovery, senior managers, had spent a whole year and only moved it to 5%. So would you hire more extra super senior debt recovery and chief debt recovery, more others, or will you average on data? That's a question for all of us. And you can see how many organizations, there's an assessment we usually do for something we call data maturity. And I can tell you, I have done it for some very advanced companies, very modern technology companies and all that. And they even barely score 40%. We are using a very tiny piece of the potential of data, very tiny piece. Will that CEO struggle paying me whatever I may need? If at all I'm saving the CEO, this is an amount of money that you could have written off as bad debt, literally. Billions of bad debts. Will the CEO struggle to invest in data? Not really. But you need to produce the business case. So that's the focus in terms of the what you call data to impact pathway. I know I've rushed through because in there's some program we learn called Certified Data-led Professional, where we go through some of these things in depth and you train you on this. So I want to jump very fast in the next 5 minutes so that I close. Just take some few takeaway here for you. I will have given you so many stories. I don't have that timeline now. Let me go and give a caution that for you to know you are maturing in data, you need to move away from what you call investigative audit effort. where you're busy fighting. Is the data correct? Finance is telling you the data is not correct. And you move to the green side where you're talking about actionable inferences. What do we do about it? You become this company where when you meet in a meeting, in a discussion in the boardroom or in ExCo meetings, the issue to discuss what happened, why did it happen, and what should we do about it? That's the decision should be discussion. The quality of your discussion should be evidence-based. It's not about blaming. Who did not do this? Who did not do this? Many meetings in the companies is about blame games, but it's because they are not data-led. When you become a data-led organization, even the discussion at the top changes completely. We have 4 types of reporting. I'm going to move very fast. There's an initial level we call operational reporting, where we report because it's a compliance. You are required to report by 5th of the month, do a report. So you report because of compliance. If you move slightly lower, you go something we call advanced reporting. You report, but benchmark with others, which sometimes is very mediocre, if you ask me. Benchmarking has a lot of mediocrity. So you report and say, we are at 20% of our NPS score, and compared to the market, we are in the 4th quartile. That's a benchmark. It's a very mediocre way of still doing things. So it's either you are reporting as a compliance issue because either regulator demands you to do the disclosures as in time, or you are reporting because you want to benchmark with others. Still, that's not proactive. There's something we call advanced analytics reporting, where you report using statistical models, where you establish what you call root cause. You go to the second level of analytics, which you call diagnostics, where you kind of diagnose the root cause and what is driving what. What are the drivers of profitability? What are the drivers of the customer, droppage and all that? When you start doing that, you get what you call proactive diagnostics in your report. You add that in your reporting, then you are in it's what you call stage 3. The last stage is called value reporting, where you report, of course, based on some predictive scenarios. So you build scenarios where now, of course, AI comes in, and those scenarios have integrated intelligence into the future, not just in now. And you're reporting, and you can even tell me next year around August, this is what is likely to happen, and these are the scenarios. If this happens, this is what is going to happen. You kind of give some what-if scenarios within your reporting. When we did a bit of a survey, and this is some years back, in terms of maturity for reporting, only 4% of organizations were at the level of value reporting. Many of us are still doing operational reporting, advanced reporting, like that. Very few of us are doing what we call value reporting. Why? There's also capacity gap in terms of capability. In terms of if you have BI tools, you can do level 1, level 2. Have that Tableau, Power BI, all those things, iDashboards, those you can do level 1 and 2. To get into the level 3 and 4, of course, you require a bit of data science capability, which are a bit more deeper. You may need to get into more deeper in the data science space. The choking point is breaking out from advanced reporting to the advanced analytics reporting. That's where many organizations get stuck. Breaking away from advanced reporting where you are benchmarking. Many of us are just doing this into benchmark with others. But building that into the next stage is where you have a choking point, and that's where we struggle. You also need to combine the magic in your storytelling. When you're telling a story, add some few things that invoke emotions. We call that add magic to the logic. Data analytics gives you logic. Data visualization and storytelling give you the magic. If you combine the two, let me tell you, you can win any business case in the boardroom. And that's why you require to be a design thinker. Kindly go and search about design thinking skills. Do for you, and maybe you can thank me later. Do a short course on design thinking. Go online, search it anywhere, Udemy, Coursera, Harrison, all these things, LinkedIn Learning. You can do a short course on design thinking. It's going to help you in terms of understanding how you solve business challenges. Good. So I'll jump that. So I think some of the challenges facing people not leverage on data. One is, of course, they don't map decisions to data. So there's no push. Nobody is pushing it. But if you map decisions to data, let me tell you, there will be a push to adopt. Data cleansing and reconstitution data is not clean. Document to data conversion, where you have a lot of data that's seated in form of documents, but you need to kind of convert them. The issue of data leak, information poor, moving to drill, also a critical issue. No data governance, data strategies, raw data illiteracy, skew on transactional data, and not focusing on behavioral modeling data. Internal data reliance, only relying, I gave you the story of the bank in the beginning. where this customer was denied a loan of 30 million, and yet actually this guy could have qualified. Why? They relied only on the internal data. They didn't seek other bigger data seated outside the organization. Don't rely on your ERP data alone. It is too little. You have to tap into the bigger ocean of the data. Not dedicated data functions. How many of us here have data functions, data-driven functions, or data science functions? Very few. Inadequate tools. You need some heavy tools to be able to do this. No real-time reporting. As you told me, some of you are spending even 2 weeks to do a monthly report. As I said, if it takes you more than 5 minutes to get any information for strategic decision making, there's redundancy. That's redundancy purely. Data regulation, of course, that are changing, and of course, siloed data enterprises, where finance keep their data, HR keep their data, and everybody's keeping their own siloed data. Way forward, you need to explore your data ranges. Remember, we talked about the 5 V's of data. You need to check on the variety and volume, understand your data, clean your data, analyze and mine data from different sources, and of course, model and forecast so that you can be able to also learn and improve. And that's why you can go into the AI now. The learning and improving is where now the AI come in, because the AI have to pick the threads from the learning from the data, and of course, help you build discernible algorithms that you can feed it into either robotics or any other AI stacks. So you need to think like a scientist. That's the takeaway here. Think like a scientist to do experiments. You'd have to define the purpose, get a buy-in from your leaders, get a visibility to test that the experiment can work, reliability, and of course, make sure at least you have a discernible value proposition for what you're doing. I'm running a bit fast. Mindset you require, you have to be open-minded, a curious thinker. If you're curious, there is hope for you in this space. Customer impact, you have to have the center of the customer at the center of anything that you do, because the solutions you are going to create must be customer-centric. You have to be an experiential, you have to be experimenter in terms of doing experiments within your organization. You need to believe in the role of cost effect. You have to make sure at least you know that things can be measured. And of course, finally, you become a design thinker. Your personal development, as I wind up so that I can take some few questions, I hand over the meeting to Lou. We have 2 programs we run, which I will recommend all of us to do, and you can reach out to us. I know my team is here. They can share some course expression of interest. We have what we call a certified data professional, which is a 10 weeks program that we run for 10 good weeks. Those are 3 months done virtually that you can make yourself become a certified data professional. And we go deep in some of these things. Then if you're a manager, if you can do the data professional, also you can progress into what we call data-led and innovation-driven manager, where now we add innovation and management practices. Most managers are not data-led, because in the functions of management, nowhere we have taught them how to lead using data. So you are forcing them and you're expecting them that they're going to lead data-driven transformation, but they have no clue on how to do it. They only know how to plan, how to coordinate, how to supervise, and all that. So we have a program for you, which also takes another 10 good weeks again, which of course you can become a certified data-led innovation-driven manager. There are many other trainings you can do. You can learn Advanced Excel and Power Suite. You can learn Power BI. We can teach you become a certified data-led innovation-driven manager. You can learn big data analytics for executives, for those who are senior guys. You can also do stacks like R, Python, Power BI, and many others. TabView, I think I didn't put TabView here, which can of course make you the certified data-led professional. And finally, for those who are in HR, we have a certified HR analytics professional, which you can do and become a certified HR analyst professional. We also have others like financial modeling. For guys who are in investments, business development, finance, and accounting, you can actually become a financial modeling expert as well. And they also have some program for AI for finance professionals. So it's quite a whole gallery of things, and there's opportunity for you why you can become an internal consultant where you are. You don't have to resign. You can become an internal consultant. Also, you can move and join me. I would love to have you. We can do consultancy together in data analytics. It's a huge consultancy space. In fact, you cannot quench the demand. I can assure you that. Every now and then, I don't think there's any time we are not doing a data consultancy somewhere, where we go to a company, they tell us, Gabriel, take all our data here. Help us appreciate that journey of data, information, intelligence, and later now build for us some machine learning algorithms on top of it. That is a huge opportunity even today. You can become a thought leader. There's a lot of speaking engagements out there, and you'll be paid for them anyway. So off your area, it does not matter where you're coming from, whether you're in HR, finance, accounting, computer science, doesn't matter. Anybody can become a thought leader in this space. You can also start doing publications. That's one of my areas that, of course, I'm focusing on now in the next couple of maybe years. I want to do a bit of publications in this space and share knowledge and experience. Then you can also do research. You can build models and people will pay you. Imagine building a model that can assess you whether you can qualify for a loan, like what we call the credit rating appraisal AI models, which you download and can tell you can qualify to 20,000. Imagine the person, how much they are being paid as loyalty by the fintech and microfinance organization and even banks for using that kind of a model. There's money for you there. So if at all you're looking for growing your career, definitely, I don't think I need to convince you beyond that. But of course, you have to make a resolve where you no longer just say, I won't do it or I can't do it. And you say, I want to do it. That's an interest. And how do I do it? That's just a persuasion within you to seek for solutions. After this, you can choose to step forward into growth and or step back into safety and continue doing business as usual, as if nothing has happened. I'm a personal coach and a purpose coach, and therefore I coach people. And I always tell people the power is within your decision making. You can choose. Today, I want to become a certified data professional, or today I want to look for Ruth to do that HR analytics. And thank you for the team in Uganda. I can see quite a lot of people from my Uganda market there, and also my colleagues here in Kenya. And I know there are people I've seen from Ethiopia, and I think one from another country, I can't remember, that Japan also. Thank you so much for joining this. So thank you so much. I want to park there and tell you thank you for participating to this webinar. We are happy to, those are contacts that you can, of course, reach out to me, and also Ruth can also share her contacts on the chat. Kindly feel free to reach out. We are happy to collaborate and do things together in your market. For those who are in different countries, invite us to even come and speak to your organizations. In fact, sometimes we give free talks to companies. We can come and speak to your managers to unlock their thinking about big data and AI space. And I'm sure out of this, we are going to create impact together. I want to park there and I tell you thank you so much for listening to me. I hope this was insightful. Please drop us any feedback on the chat. And I'm going to hand over to Ruth now to maybe moderate for us a brief session on Q&A. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Wow, that is super amazing. Thank you, Coach Gabriel. If we can go back to our emojis, please give a reaction to Coach Gabriel. I don't know what has been invoked within you. I liked the last 3 slides. What are we going to do after this training? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your emojis. We are tracking your behavior.
We can predict.
All right. So
Thank you.
Predicting it. All right. So, Coach Gabriel, we had some questions that had come in. Some came privately to me.
Okay.
And anyone else who has a question, please feel free to drop them on the chat. I think this is someone who was really thinking about Africa or a group of them. So the questions were, where are we lagging behind in the BDA and AI in Africa? And maybe let me combine them, they're kind of related. And what are the African governments and regulatory bodies doing to address the data privacy and security? I think there's a lot of mystery or wariness in people, getting into this space because of, they're tracking us. And then what are the unique opportunities that we have seen in Africa that are quite unique only to Africa and not other regions in this era, so we can be able to take quick advantage of those opportunities? And the 4th question was, how can organizations encourage employees to take advantage of the BDA and the AI, whether they're in form of trainings or experiences or incorporating it to their day-to-day? And the 5th question, I think I saw it on the chat, it was asking about the professional courses, and a link has been shared for the courses that you can take on to get your certification. So over to you, Coach Gabriel.
All right, thank you so much, Ruth, and thank you so much for those heartful of questions. That shows that, of course, I had an audience, which is very good. Number one, I think there are some that are almost similar. So a very interesting question about data privacy, on what the states, especially within our market and even globally, they are doing. Now, people, I don't know, I think people sometimes just try to see the limitations and the opportunities. If you remember the data evolution path, what I call data to impact pathway, Remember, we went through several stages. I told you there is data, there is information, there is intelligence, there is insight, and there is impact. Can I submit to you? Can I submit to you? Only data is protected. Information and intelligence from that data is not protected. Let me give you an example. So if let's say I am in an automobile, and therefore maybe I run a app like Uber, I cannot share the personal details with anybody else, third party, because I'm bound by the data protection. Notice it's called data protection, not intelligence protection, okay? There's nothing called intelligence protection, nowhere, unless you register IP rights. So data itself, the raw data of my customer, I cannot share with anybody. But guess what? Because I have the data, when I analyze the data, I no longer now deal with the data. I'll people, wow, wait a minute. A youth aged between 20 years to 25 years love traveling at 11 midnight. I hope you get that statement. Eh? The data tells me that youth between 20 and 25 years love traveling at midnight. That information is nowhere protected. So I can now build a product on a solution based on that information, because I need now to go to the intelligence to ask myself, why do they travel between 12 and midnight? Or why do they travel between 11 and midnight? At that level, I am already off the protected area. And I want you to get that. That's what people have not understood. And that's why today, even this Zoom application here cannot share my personal detail that I attended this forum and whatever, and we were with Doreen and we were with Boniface here. That is purely data protected. But you know what? As I'm speaking and we are recording, there is a whisper behind the wind in terms of how you can translate my voice into text, and the text can be whatever, and they can tell 20% of people who have attended online Zoom meetings last year were having mental health issues. That information to Zoom is not protected. And that's why these big tech companies, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, all those, they are leveraging not on the data. They use the data to analyze and get the information and intelligence. Then they build products from there. So you ask about protection. Yes, data should be protected. I know we are going to what we call Web3. Web3 is the cryptography where, of course, data can be managed differently, where I tokenize my data. I own my data, I tokenize. To you, I give you a token and it expires, the data comes to me. I know that's going to happen, though it's being fought by other big tech companies, because it's going to democratize how we deal with the data. Especially the Web3 space is I'm very passionate about the Web3. So to answer your question, yes, data need to continue being protected. I have no issue with that. The question is, if you're able to continue in that process, from data you go to information and intelligence, you now get into a free market space where anybody can be able to leverage data for developing solutions. So there are enough opportunities. As you're talking about unique opportunities in Africa that are not in other places. Now let's go back again. We are currently using algorithms that has been built, this is an AI, that mostly have been built using data from elsewhere. Sorry to say so. So if you scan my chest today, who knows that maybe human population around the equatorial region, maybe we have a different way our chest should behave. Eh? So if I'm using an AI for diagnostic for chest or lung cancer or head cancer, brain cancer and all that, I should actually scan people from my area. How many of you have been scanned and maybe your data is being used to build an AI algorithm? Very few. Why? Because we're using data that is somehow, of course, it may be accurate to a certain extent, but the opportunity we have for Africa is to build our own big data lakes. Big data lakes. We need to build oceans of our own local data, because that then means when we solution that data to build our algorithms, they will be African-centered. But we are lagging behind because, again, the competence is not yet there. That's why we are very passionate to build a lot of competency in this area so that we awaken our giant, which is Africa, to actually take advantage of it. To an extent, also, we need our own data centers. I know that's a very slippery area. We need our own data warehouses so that we are not relying on these other the World Web, what you call the Internet of Things. We also need to build our own other offshoots of that. So I think I've addressed the challenges we have for me for adoption is mindset. The biggest issue is mindset. If you don't believe that data is valuable, if you don't believe that data is an asset, and therefore you build a data mindset within your organization, then it is very hard to succeed. There are places where you go and I talk to data scientists because I coach them a lot and data analysts and many people are doing those BI projects, and they'll tell me they'll come up with nice models. When they present to their expo, present to their management committee, they are trashed. Why? Maybe the manager is ignorant about data, so they can't support you. So you get frustrated. That's why I was saying you need to invite us to come and speak to them. Give us those talks. We come and speak about big data analytics for CEOs, for directors, for managers, so that we unlock the mindset. When there's mindset, there's a statement that usually say this: what you don't know, you will talk about. What you do not understand, you dismiss. So if your managers do not understand big data and AI, let me tell you, they will dismiss the adoption completely, and you'll be frustrated. If they know about it, but don't understand, they will talk about it as moshene. Moshene is gossip. So hype. They're talking about it, but for ground, nothing. So what you don't know, you talk about, you gossip about. What you don't understand, you dismiss it. You throw it away. I think I've answered 3 questions. The 4th one, how do you encourage employees to take advantage of the opportunity? I think it's just to connect their career success to tell them that the reality of the world we are living in, we have what we call smart devices, intelligent devices. Now, you buy a smart phone, isn't it? You buy a smart thermostat. You have a smart watch. You have a smart microwave, a smart iron box. Question is, are you yourself smart? So you have people wearing smart devices, but themselves are not smart. You need to make your employees smart. So they need to embrace this new trend. You'll make them smart so that they're also able to know how to interact with the smart world. We have now smart cities. Everything around you is smart. On the highway, all the GPSs are taking data from us, CCTV cameras. We are all smart world. Question is human smart? That's the problem. So it's an issue of mindset, coaching, mentoring. If you do that, employees are able to see the future in this space. AI is going to create more work, just like the way internet also created more work. But if employees are doing the transactional work, there is no future for them. If they know that, they're going to embrace the new skills. I always say, I think I said in the beginning, I don't fear AI. I know what AI is going to take over. The transaction, if you're a finance guy, debit, credit, generating financial accounts, those incomplete records and financial statement, my friend, that's gone. If you're an auditor, doing the normal operational audit, my friend, a robot will do that auditing. Those transactional work, all of them will disappear. But there's a higher dimension, like connection, relationship, all those dimensions are going to remain. That's what makes us human. So encourage your employees to understand this space so that they can be able to position themselves. Professional courses, of course, there are many, and of course, we can share that along the way. We have your contacts. We are going to keep sharing with you our calendar, which you can subscribe. We have an enrollment for the Certified Data Analyst Professional running for 10 weeks from April. Feel free to take an early bird offer. If you want to take Certified Data Analyst Manager, also we have that program for you. So, and many others, of course, that we cannot exhaust in this talk. We can be able to share that information out of this webinar. So thank you for those questions. I don't know if there's any other burning one as we wind up.
I think from my end, that's what I had received. In case there's one last one we haven't received it, you have just a few seconds to type in. But as we conclude, we have come to the end of our webinar. It was quite heavy, Coach Gabriel, I must say. It's not easy. There's a lot of unlearning and relearning to do. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Coach Gabriel and his diligent team. And thank you too to our sponsors and the attendees for making this event a success. We hope you found the insights that Coach Gabriel has shared today valuable, and that your learning has been elevated to the next level. I hope you've also been able to get a deeper understanding of the power of big data analytics and AI And remember, we've just started the journey. The journey doesn't end here. Please stay connected with us on our social media platforms, our websites. We have a lot of resources and updates of future events. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us. We shall be ready to offer the much needed support. So the recording for the webinar shall be shared with all who had registered. And thank you once again for joining us. And we look forward to having continuous conversations as we connect on another training that hopefully is going to get us to be smart employees, smart people, smart Ugandans, smart Kenyans, smart Africans. And until the next time, please stay curious, stay innovative, and keep pushing boundaries of what's possible with big data and AI. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.